I want to talk to you about protein. The particular structure of protein makes possible the elasticity of our skin, the contractility of muscles. Proteins are also enzymes which catalyze all chemical reactions, such as the burning of glucose. Proteins also constitute receptors, which are the molecules that receive information, for which information is transmitted throughout the body. These have very important functions. I think there is, again, a tremendous amount of confusion about how much protein people should eat, what kind of protein is the best protein. Now, on these anti-carbohydrate diets that are popular today, most people are eating enormous amounts of protein. That is not necessarily healthy. The problem is that if you take in more protein than the body needs to build and repair tissue or to make enzymes or receptors, it's going to burn the excess as fuel. And protein is not an ideal fuel. Here's why. First of all, these very complicated molecules take more work to disassemble and burn. So the efficiency of protein as a fuel is not nearly as great as that of fat and carbohydrate. But I think more important, protein is not a clean burning fuel. So I worry about the amount of protein that people are eating today in the name of being on a healthy diet in which carbohydrate is reduced to very low levels, usually to lose weight. I would recommend about 10 to 20% of calories as protein. Then you're faced with the big question of what kind of protein is optimal to eat. I'll just quickly go through some major categories. Meat has the advantage of having proteins that are more similar to our proteins. So these are very usable by the body. I think there are a lot of practical problems with meat as a major protein source. Just quickly, the animals that provide meat are large organisms that live at the top of food chains. So they accumulate all environmental toxins that have been eaten by lower organisms down on the food chain. So animals today have high concentrations in their flesh, in their fat, of environmental toxins, in addition, both natural toxins and artificial ones that have been released into the environment. The animal sources of meat are also main sources of saturated fat, which, as I've said, is not healthy for our cardiovascular system. And animal protein is also very dense protein, so it's easier to get overdoses of protein if you're relying on meat as your protein source. I think here's one of the areas in which Asian cultures are ahead of us, because most Asian cultures that use meat use it in relatively small amounts, cut up into dishes in which there's a great abundance of vegetables as well. You know, we don't do that. We like dense portions of meat, and many people in our culture, if you didn't serve them a dense portion of meat, would wonder where the main course was. You know, we think of that as the centerpiece of how we eat. Where's the beef? You know, milk and milk products are another major source of protein, and they have been heavily promoted by the dairy industry as healthy sources of calcium lifelong. I'm not so sure about that. You know, milk and milk products have several strikes against them. The first is that the sugar in milk is indigestible by many people in the world who are lactose intolerant. And to tell all people that milk should be a basic ingredient of human nutrition simply doesn't work for a large percentage of the world's population. The fat in milk is the most saturated fat in the diet. So in a sense, it's worse than the fat in meat, you know, because it's a higher percentage of saturated fatty acids, and something I think you need to be careful of. Cheese is probably one of the major source of saturated fat in the American diet. That doesn't mean you should not eat any cheese. You know, cheese is included in the Mediterranean diet, but in modest amounts. You know, it's not something that's eaten every day in very large quantities. Some animal foods are fine, but it is good to explore the world of vegetable protein. You know, and if you look there, I think that learning about soybeans and soy foods is excellent. There are many, many benefits to soy, and you know, if you're not yet friends with tofu or tempeh, it's good to do that.